Hey, I don't know what happened. There's something going on. I don't know if it's connected to the podcast, but I was just listening to episode 43, and you were wrapping up telling about your dream. And then I was listening to Spotify, your episode on Spotify, on my TV, while I cleaned the couch. And the TV shut off, and my living room and kitchen, my dining room and kitchen light turns off, and my air cut off, and my fridge isn't on, and my chest freezer's not working, and none of my lights will turn on. And then I hear people walking on the platform, but by the time I got my step stool, because I'm short, I can hear people, but I can't see anyone. I don't know what's happening. My power's out. You were just telling me about the dream, and then you were telling Brett about the dream, and then you were talking to her about the man with the sores on his face, and then you asked him where he came from, and he laughed and he walked off, and then I think it went a little bit farther, but it just shut off. Everything. My whole house just went completely quiet. I don't know what to do. I'm going to check my email to make sure that my apartment complex didn't, tell me that this was going to happen. I'll be right back. So it's been established that the power is out, and the complex does not know why. That is all. I'm going to go back and find the exact moment where it cut off of the episode. So you had just said you had no power since the night before at 7 p.m. And then silence. Like my entire house, my TV, my kitchen light, my dining room light. I'm pretty sure I had something in the dryer. My air cut off, the entire building. I'm pretty sure my entire complex might be out of power. And the complex doesn't know why. They have no idea. It's just out. Okay, yeah, so I was listening to your episode. You were talking about how your power was off until the night before at 7 p.m. and then my power cut off. I wish I could make this shit up. Wow.
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people. Because these angels or angelic forces or nature spirits, as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
And all of a sudden I hear him go, whoa, or, something like that. So I look up. And as I look up, I see this thing.
And I said, I've never seen a butterfly like you before.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
As soon as I spoke to it, it turns around and makes eye contact with me. And then it stands upright.
And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. Its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped.
And I started talking to them. I'm like, hi, are y'all the dwarves? And I would hear whispers that would say, hi, yeah, you want to play? And it wasn't just my imagination. And I had told them, I'm like, my dwarves, they like beer, you know? And my dad's like, yeah, sure, your dwarves like beer. And they were holding a conversation, and his beer slid upwards instead of downwards, how the house was tilted. And him and my brothers jumped up.
So I stopped calling out Adam, and I'm just kind of, my mind draws a blank, and I stop behind that tree stump. I'm pretty close to it now because I took a few steps forward, and I see this thing.
Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight, we're heading to Tennessee to talk with Hannah. Hannah, how are things going in Tennessee tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty chilly.
Well, it's not a podcast opener unless someone talks about the weather. So thank you again for helping check that box.
No problem.
Warm and sunny where I am. Unfortunately, though, I guess tourist season has begun in Costa Rica, and last night a truckload of people were partying till literally 6 a.m. when the roosters started to crow, and I didn't get much sleep.
Jeez.
Yeah. Anyhow, let's jump into the Fascinating Fae intro accoutrements, if this is okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, Hannah, as you know, but for anybody who might just be dropping in here for the first time, should know, on Fascinating Fae, we do not try to convince anybody of anything. This is because the phenomenon of fairies, of fae, interdimensionals, whatever label you want to put on it, it's extremely difficult to comprehend, and when you experience it, it's like very, very difficult thereafter to explain the impact and the aspects of the encounter. So for that reason, there's no pressure to convince us. It's just not about that. We're just here to listen to it exactly how it unfolded and to collect from it what you felt and what your insights were. The second kind of thing I like to say at the start of the show is it is brave to come on the show. And more, I double down on that one. It's brave to come on this show and talk about fairy experiences. Full stop. It's brave for 101 reasons that, if you've listened to the show enough, you'll know what I mean, but it's definitely brave to come on the show. And so, Hannah, it's brave for you to talk to me. Finally, the only last thing to say is that the format of the show is that I like to let the guest have as much time and space to get into their storytelling as possible. And, I don't usually like to interrupt the guest, but as you know, Hannah, when you're naturally finished, your storytelling, or you hit natural break junctures in your narrative, I might jump in there and ask a few questions just because I'm curious. And that's pretty much the format of the show. Now, having said that, look, for the audience listening, I'll just give a little bit of disclosure here. This is the second time I'm now trying to do this episode with Hannah. Hannah, do you concur with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so honestly, we had a pretty great talk the last time we talked. I had been waiting to bring Hannah on the show for some time. Definitely over a year. I've been waiting to have you on the show. And just to connect some dots, like in the beginning of this year, 2025, Spotify turfed my whole catalog, which then descendingly turfed the catalog across pretty much all platforms. The original season in its entirety with introductions intact is, I think, just only able to be found on listen notes nowadays, and that's due to be refreshed any minute now. So the original iteration of season 1 may be gone forever. But in that iteration, I was doing introduction work where I was attempting to provide for the listener the kind of experience I was undergoing, where many people were messaging me who had been listening to the show, who were having definitely like directly correlated high strangeness occur as a result of listening to the show. And in that introduction schema, Hannah, you were a big part of that, because I really felt back then, and now doubly so am confirmed on that feeling, that, you know, you've got a kind of special nature about you that the phenomena can flow through quite easily, whether you know that about yourself or not, or growing in your understanding of that. That's just my gut feeling about you. It's like, oh, the Fae like Hannah. And, you know, many people that had like those standout moments in season 1 where there's documented high strangeness during episodes were engaged in listening to the show much the same way you were. And you were absolutely having, even though we weren't talking like during an episode production, you were having as much or more correlated high strangeness as anybody out of the whole season 1. So you played a big part in that season for me, in my understanding of it, because it was like almost a direct feedback loop to what you were listening to, the excitement you were feeling about the show, and then what was unfolding in your real life experience, which in and of itself is just absolutely fascinating that the show can have that impact. So anyway, this is all to say, look, Hannah and I did a complete episode finally after more than a year of waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And it was loaded with great moments, right? I'm not going to spoil it because we're going to try to do our best to recreate that experience here tonight. But this is where I think I'll just like finish my preface. So Hannah, you know, you're an important fan of the show, and you're much more than that, obviously, at this point. That should be clear to you. But to what extent Fascinating Fae is a real life, interwoven, shared encounter experience, you definitely, like, I think are part of that roller coaster train. You know, there may be 20 cars with 40 people on it, but it's definitely all moving in sync on a wild ride at times. And that kind of grows as we go. But here's the problem. It's like, I think all of us who were season 1 involvees, I'll call it, because I'm thinking season 1 does have the trademarks of a shared encounter experience. But I shut her down for 9 months, and I was slow to pick back up. A big part of the reason for that is just it was becoming overwhelming to have continuous high strangeness erupting around me. And as I started to pick up on season 1 again, this lingered in the back of my mind. I was like, when is this strangeness going to start again? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, can you imagine me? I'm like, oh God, do I want to open this Pandora's box once more? Because if I continue my genuine pursuit the way I've been doing it, likely outcome is going to be stuff's going to get weird again. And that wasn't always good for me back in season 1. You might have caught that little undertone in season 2 here. So I'll kind of just, speak it, which it's not meant to be just undertone. At times, the degree of high strangeness, like a man with no face, like showing up at the crack of dawn, and my power going out, and then you having your power go out correspondingly, anyway, this is all just to say, I've been afraid of when the strangeness is going to start again. And as I lined up to talk with you, I just was getting like increasingly more and more uneasy. I weathered talking to Danielle again here in season 2 without, I still had all my fingers and toes. I was like, okay, maybe season 2 is just going to be an analytical thing with no high strangeness component. But then I got to you, and I don't know if it's just like a leftover bits of the season 1 effect on you and I together or what the shit. But as you and I were talking, there was a couple of really key moments where I felt like, oh God, like you're describing an entity that is more or less, up there with Grimble Grumble in terms of like wanting to come through this programming. And you remember that moment. I was like, this is when you were naming the individual that you had received. And what we failed to do, which we're going to do now, is we failed to talk about our good friend Grimble Grumble. We did not even 1 second credit him with any of the stuff that we were, lavishing over that had happened in your corollary experience as a listener. And probably that power outage was our friend, much the same way that I'm convinced he visited Emma's house and was playing games with the cards while she and I were talking. I see no limit to that capability extending to what happened with your power, because it is so eerily fucking similar that your unit building power went down at that exact moment without explanation for like a couple of days, if I recall, and they really couldn't figure it out. Same exact story over at my place. And the chances of that, become so infinitesimally small as a fraction of the total possibility that like you start to get into this like weird knowing that unfolds. And so maybe it's that, like maybe it's the fact that you had owls coming to your house and we included that in the intro. Like it's a feedback loop, you see, because your fascination as a listener then manifests in your experiences around you. But then when I get to share those genuine moments of excitement, which you were brave enough and generous enough to capture with the other listeners, that amplifies their fascination with everything because they're listening to the excitement and the wonder in your voice. It's like that episode with Jane where you can just hear like how tripped out she is that thing showed up in the plant pot, or Emma, like there was a couple of times there where you could hear that and you were capturing that and it was being shared. So there's some sort of footprint or fingerprint of you in the project. And when I got to you and I finally interviewed you, then the strangeness started.
But I can hear them. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. My cat's going crazy inside. My patio door's open, but the screen's closed. There's gotta be 2 of them. Woo-hoo. Wow. I was just listening to your podcast and talking to my boyfriend about it, and I was just having a really profound download. And then I come out here to take my dog outside, and immediately, as soon as I come outside, I hear them, and then they just keep talking. Thank you. Hello? Hello? Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Oh my God. I hope you can hear them. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. Oh my God. I can't see them, but I can hear them. Woo-hoo. Woo-hoo. My cat's going crazy inside. My patio door's open, but the screen's closed. There's gotta be 2 of them. Woo-hoo. Wow. I was just listening to your podcast and talking to my boyfriend about it, and I was just having a really profound download. And then I come out here to take my dog outside, and immediately, as soon as I come outside, I hear them, and then they just keep talking. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And so, like, what happened is that basically, just to put a final cap on this, and then we'll hand the mic over to you where it rightfully belongs. Sorry to like hijack the dialogue portion of the start of your episode, Hannah, but I'm just trying to like fill in the dots for all the listeners.
No problem.
So we had this amazing conversation. You talk about a fae that you've encountered. I get like goosebumped out, and it's pretty clear that like as soon as we hung up, some weird stuff started to happen. So we hung up, and then it was pretty late by the time we were done talking. I went directly to bed. I woke up in the morning and I was talking to Julia about my interview with you and like how great it was.
Mhm.
And I remember I told you in our interview about this thing that had come into the house on the top of the mountain and like touched Julia and I and made Julia's hair literally stand up as though she was touching a plasma ball at Science World. And the next morning after I spoke with you, I'm recounting our interview, and sure as fucking shit, that thing, which I am more and more like convinced is Grimble Grumble, because I got to know the feeling of the motherfucker pretty goddamn well by now. And he was like right in between us in the kitchen. Like we were separated by 4 feet. She was making a Turkish coffee. I was sitting down, and like here it was like on my left, here it was over on her right. And it was like compartmentalized, like only half of our body was getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
In proximity to it. And we were talking about it because what was happening is that I was telling Julia, I told Hannah last night about what we saw at the mountain house and the thing that touched you. And as I'm telling this story, it showed up again. And then I'm saying to Julia, see, this is how it works. Now the fuel cell has been plugged back in. I talked to fucking Hannah, like, and now here he's got juice again, and he's like growing stronger as I'm literally talking about him. It's the same feedback loop that got things going in season 1. So that happened, and I told you about it immediately. Remember, I said, you're not going to fucking believe this, but that thing that I recounted to you that happened on the top of the mountain is clearly like in the kitchen here this morning. And I told you again, Hannah, like you've got the touch, like talking to you is as trippy as talking to Danielle or Emma or Brett or anybody for that matter. So that happens. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to work on your episode. So I work on your episode, and this is how you know it's the Fae, okay? Because this is particularly how I know it's Grimble Grumble that was interfering. I do the entire edit. And I'm a meticulous editor. I take out any lip smacks. I take out any time we accidentally speak over one another. I record you and I in separate channels so I can isolate any audio problems and literally like craft the conversation so that we sound like two perfect talkers. And I do all this. It takes me 5 hours to 6 hours for every episode to lay them out that way. And I literally get to the point where you say your last words and I'm like, I hit save. And I'm like, okay, good, we're good, you know? And the thing that I do next after I've cleaned up the 2 audio, which is my audio, your audio, is I copy and paste them, and I go to put that 2 sections of audio into my main audio file, which is the bed where the introduction and everything for Fascinating Fae lives. And usually when I'm making a new episode, I just take out the old conversation and I put in the new one. And everything else is ready for me to work with. The violin intro is already there. The standard intro is already there. And I know exactly like and quickly how to change the intro interview portion and the transition music. So I get that all good. And I put your conversation into this audio bed and I hit save. And then I'm like, cool, I'm good. Like I'm going to step away from this now, go eat. I'm going to come back and I'm getting ready to publish it. I've got your episode art. I've got your episode name. I've got your episode description done. And these programs are both like the two versions of Audacity where all this is taking place are opened, and I'm looking at them. I'm looking at your file. It's there. It's cool. Okay. And I go to like continue to work on the bed file, and it's just like frozen. Not a terribly unusual Audacity thing per se. So, you know, I eventually like restart the computer after closing Audacity down, open it back up, and I go to the recent files tab in Audacity because I want to get back working on the project. And I click on the tab for my intro, and it opens, and it's blank. There's nothing in there. There's literally the thing I use to produce episodes is just looks like a brand new file. There's nothing in there. All the information is gone. The file name is there. It opened the file, but it's gone. Okay, that's fucking weird. That's not a typical thing. Audacity is really well designed with crash recovery. And if it crashes somehow, when you start it the next time, it will always bring up what had crashed, and it will bring it up right up to like the, 10 seconds before it crashed. It's this really, really handy tool. There is no crash recovery here because I hit save. And when I hit save, I was looking at it, and I hit save, and I was looking at the data. I was looking at all the different tracks and where the audio on them was. I was looking at it. I hit save. Then I walked away from the computer as I described, came back, and it was frozen. So I rebooted. Now that I open the file, it's blank. This is not even technically a thing. Like this is not an error that logically makes sense. And I looked all over fucking Audacity forums for how this error could have occurred, and it just doesn't come up. Like no one has this error. It's not an error that should occur. It's not like the way the software is designed to interact with itself. It shouldn't have done that, especially because I had successfully saved it when it was open and I was looking at it. So then I'm like, okay, I got to go get your track because I got to rebuild my intro and I want to still publish your episode. So I go to open your vocal track and my vocal track, and I can't, I'm in the open recent. So I open recent, and it says we cannot find a file by that file name. What? This is also impossible because let's just say, for example, when I hit save, I didn't hit save. It wouldn't matter. The thing that I had saved earlier that day would still be there. The last time I had hit save, whatever, 30 minutes prior, right? So now I go into the file finder system, and I'm searching like Hannah by name, and then I see the file. Okay, there's the file. Yeah, 13.5 gigabytes. I click on it and I go to open it, and it says, this file is not associated with a program. Please select a program with which to open this file. And now I'm fucking tripped out because, first of all, when I try to open the file from within Audacity, it says we can't find the file. So then I go to the directory, system, just like Finder on a Mac, and now I can see the file. When I go to open it, it says we don't know which program this file belongs to. So I am trying to open the file. I can see it there. I can see it's 13 gigs, which is what it should be. I can see the two related hannah.aup.vx files, which are kind of like these just extra data files. Everything looks right, but I can't open it. And then I keep going back to my intro bed and looking at it. I'm like, why is this blank? Why can't I open Hannah's episode? What's going on here? And so I reboot the computer, just thinking, a reboot always helps in life, wherever something's not working technically. And then I go to find your file, and now it's just gone. There's no record of hannah.aup ever existing. It's gone. I download file recovery software. It's not anywhere in a recently deleted system. It's not in the trash. On a Mac, in order for something to delete, you have to first move it to the trash, and then you have to manually empty the trash. And it asks you, are you sure you want to empty the trash? It's a pretty good fail-safe for not accidentally deleting shit. And here, now your file is just gone. And so, look, I had been producing really nicely up until I spoke with you. And then I start talking with you, and we are clearly talking about Grimble Grumble, but we don't name him. Instead, we name your other Fae. And I honestly feel like as soon as I put it together that he turfed my bed, he turfed the intro structure, and he turfed our conversation. It's like, that's too weird for both of those files to experience separate errors that both result in their, not being there. One file is totally fine. You can open it, but it's blank. The other one appears to be there and can't be opened. And then upon rebooting is now just completely gone. And that's not right. And so I just feel like we probably woke up that entity who's keenly waiting for the moment that you get engaged again and he can work through you and do stuff around you, which was happening before, and got a little miffed that he was not in the limelight. And that is exactly what happened with him and Patinia as well. So there's a clear, jealous streak in Grimble Grumble. And if not acknowledged and not given a chance to fuel himself up by being the star of Fascinating Fae, he will absolutely just wreak havoc. It's absolutely clear to me now that that's what was going on. And then, just to finalize this, because I know I've been rambling on here, but I know you're following me, and I want to hear what you think as soon as I'm done. I go to talk to this woman named Jen the next day. Jen is a near-death experience survivor and a fairy contactee. And the first thing she says to me, we're trying to talk, and it's terrible audio connection. And I'm my spider senses are tingling. I'm like, I'm going to have a real conversation with Jen, I can tell. And we finally kind of, hang out, call back. And she's like, oh, sorry. Ever since I had my near-death experience, technology works really funny around me. And I'm talking to her and I'm telling her, here's what just happened to me 5 minutes before I got on the phone with you, because I was working on all that, Hannah, just before I was going to hop on an interview with this woman, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm telling her basically what I just told you. And I'm recording myself as I always do in Audacity. And I'm recording her, the guest, as I always do in QuickTime. Like I've described on the show so many times, I record in two separate places. And this one is really mind-numbing, this one. But the deleted shit maybe is just a computer malfunction, but this one is truly where I knew, okay, this is Grimble Grumble. I'm telling Jen about these technical snafus, and in part, I'm kind of briefing her on the past season of the show, and I'm getting to the point where I'm saying, and I know this might sound a little out there, but let me just throw this past you before we start talking to see, where your threshold for the strange is. I'm pretty sure that the reason I just lost this audio is because I didn't talk about this guy named Grimble Grumble. And there's this silence, and she says, oh, yeah, that tracks. And I said, yeah, doesn't it? And I'm talking to her about it for a second more. And it's what happens next so interesting. So I can't remember the exact phrasing, but I will use this audio clip in the future because I think I still have it saved, gratefully. I say to her something like, yeah, I think it's this guy, Grimble Grumble. And then there's this audio noise, like a super weird EVP. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I hear her say, oh, I lost you there. And I'm saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And I'm looking at Audacity because I'm trying to see, is the mic also hearing me? Right. And I'm saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And she's saying, yes, yes, yes. And what's super confusing is I'm looking at when she says yes, it's showing up on Audacity, not when I talk. So I'm going cross-eyed, and I say to her, hold on a second. And I stop everything and I go back 20 seconds. And what had happened is that as I'm talking to her and I say, it's this Grimble Grumble character, the audio was recording me in Audacity. I want to just be really crystal clear for everyone listening, okay? The audio is on. The recording button has been hit. Every syllable out of my mouth is showing up as a waveform in front of my eyes. I'm looking at the same thing right now as I'm talking to you.
Mhm.
It is technically impossible to switch what the source point for recording is when the recording is underway. So if I want to, for example, not record this mic, I want to record my earphone mic, I would have to stop recording, go to settings, go to audio input device, manually select the different microphone, and resume recording. And now that would be the what is being recorded in the same file. It is impossible to switch from one device that is recording to another while recording is underway. It is impossible. The software will not even let you open that section of the interface while recording is underway. It's grayed out. But somehow, as I said to her, I think it's this Grimble Grumble guy, the audio inside Audacity went from recording me to recording her. And on QuickTime went from recording her to recording me.
Oh, that's funny.
Super, super impossible. And for it to happen to both pieces of software at the same time and reverse the position of recording means that in both of those softwares, the impossible happened, which is that while recording was underway, a new device was selected and it changed them.
Yeah, it's like he's moving the ball under the cups.
Precisely. And like clearly a flex directly associated with, did you just understand what I did to your file with Hannah, Jim? Good for you. You got it. You're talking to Jen about it now. Your intuition is functioning. Here's your acknowledgement. And at the same time, in Grimble Grumble style. And FYI, don't fuck with me because look what I can do.
Yeah, I was just thinking, look what I can do.
Right. And so then there's the matter of the 4 episodes prior to you that also were gone as I hung up with Jen. And furthermore, I rectified everything with Jen, started to record, and 10 minutes into recording, my microphone turned off without me knowing. And I like literally turned off, like it has a on-off button on it. And I conducted the entire interview with Jen. She could hear me, but it was not tracking on Audacity. Like, I just cannot explain these things. I had to toggle the on-off button several times with it plugged in to understand, why is she able to hear me? It's toggled to off, but it's not registering in Audacity. Like, she was listening to me on a microphone that was off. All this stuff happened after talking with you. So that's my introduction for Hannah. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Oh, gee, thanks.
What do you think about what I just said? I'm anxious to hear what your response is.
I mean, I definitely, I don't know. I mean, he's definitely, like you said, flexing. Yeah, I don't know. Cause like I had sent you audios recently about how in our first taking of this episode, I said I had a dream about a fae, and I didn't get to remember what we talked about in my dream, but when I woke up, I had his name in my head, and I had told you on our first take of this what it was, and I felt fine. Like I even said in the episode, I was like, if I'm not supposed to say this, then it's on him because he's not giving me any kind of vibes that I shouldn't say his name. And after the fact, I was like, I don't know. I was just like, I was thinking to myself because I think that night I have like a little hangout that's like a 5-minute drive down from my apartment, and it's like a marina that they have a little rock that I sit on, and I just look out at the lake and I chill and look at the stars and whatever. And I was just like sitting there thinking about like whether I should have or shouldn't have like shared his name. And I was like, all right, you know what? Like, dude, if I did something wrong, if there was like something wrong with that episode, like I don't even know, like I just have this funky vibe, like if you need to do something or what have you, like, you know,
Barnaby,
like if I
Barnaby,
mess something up, if something
Barnaby,
was messed up, like I
Barnaby,
don't know, like if you
Barnaby,
need to do what you need to
Barnaby,
do, like go for it. But like
Barnaby,
I can't make up my mind as to whether or not I did the right thing. And it was the next day, because I just checked on our messenger. Our episode was the 19th, and then that's the night I went to the marina. And then the 20th, that morning, you had texted me saying you saw the thing in the at breakfast, or yeah, talking to Julia. And I was like, okay, like that's kind of weird, because when you were telling me that you saw something, I didn't feel anything. Like I felt like if it was my guy, I would have felt something, you know? Like if he was invoked, I don't know, he's not like my, you know, like who was it that said, you know, they can't, Katie, I think, said like you can't own them. But like I don't know, he came to me first. I feel like if someone else was invoking him, or if he was visiting someone, I would get like some tingly spidey senses or something, and I didn't. And I was like, all right, like I believe you, but like I don't know, it feels like weird that I don't like feel anything about that. But and like it being Grimble Grumble would make sense, because like I mean, I've personally like exchanged what I think is communication with Grumble Grumble, but I don't personally like think I mean, maybe he is hanging around me. I don't mean to insult him. Danielle said, I have a gnome figurine that Danielle said kind of looks like him, because he's pulling his pants down to show you his butt crack, and he's sticking his tongue out at you. And she's like, that's very Grimble Grumble-esque. And I was like, yeah, I've had him for like years, and I never really thought about that until you just said it. So like maybe. And I think I sent you a picture of him, but um I don't know. I don't like feel anybody around me on a day-to-day basis. I started leaving them offerings and stuff, but like, yeah. So it being Grumble Grumble to me makes sense, because, you know, he's with you, not with me at that moment, or at any moment. um, yeah, I don't know.
I think you're onto something there. I didn't necessarily perceive it as the Fae that you had named either. But there was that distinct feeling of like, I just don't know how else to put it other than to say that it really did feel like Grumble Grumble was a little jelly, you know?
Yeah, and I just kind of checked, because I have two pendulums. They're basically like it's like a chain, and at the bottom is this thing with a point, and it moves as you hold it. Like if you try to hold it, it moves very weird and very like purposefully. If you don't, it kind of decides what like back left, or front back left right, or like clockwise counterclockwise, which way to swing in. And I have two different ones. One of them I bought in Gatlinburg, and the other one I don't remember. But I just double checked with my guy, and he said that he has no problem with me saying his name is Barnaby. So, you know, I
Good. I'm
did
glad we named it
it.
again. I got that same little rush as I did the last time.
I was just like, even still going, because like when you know, like when we first started this call, I thought we were just chatting. I didn't know we were gonna do the whole episode again. I'm down, but like, so I was like, oh, like shoot, like I didn't like confirm if that was like the issue with the last episode or not. So I was like, while you were talking, I was like, let me just verify something real quick.
Right. Well, everybody listening, you know, light a candle in the bathroom and say Grimble Grumble 3 times in the mirror with the lights off, you know. I'm low-key joking, but maybe don't do that. You never know. But you know, outside of like evoking the Fae and what exactly was going on with my audio after I definitely completely edited our episode and saved it, as well as saving where I had put it, was like in and of itself pass offable until it was like, well, it's the goddamn same morning that we saw that thing in the kitchen again. I should say felt, but it's almost like seeing. It's so very difficult to describe. When your like third eye's been activated, it blurs the lines between seeing it and just sort of sensing it. But anyway, and then, you know, immediately following like both of those files being turfed without explanation, there was that weird flip flop on the audio. with Jen just
Mhm.
directly there afterwards in the 10-minute, you know, period of time directly subsequent that. And so I just looked at all of that collectively, checked in with myself. And what I keep coming up with is that Barnaby is definitely a real Fae. That's, first of all, we'll get there in a second, because, you know, we should transition into your storytelling rather than just talking about this one aspect of things. But the other thing that keeps coming up too is that we definitely were talking about, you know, your lights going down. And I attribute that to be a Grimble Grumble thing. I think you did too, but we never said it. And it's sort of like a pissed off artist being like, yo, you used my riff and you didn't credit me, you know, or like, do you know what I mean? Like it just felt to me inside like a little bit of a miffed, like, feeling from that character that he was being referenced, but not being given his, not being named.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to this thought I kept having in season 1, too. It's like, when you know one of these fairies' names or the name that they give you, are they trying to power up? And so the act of like giving a name is a focus point for them as an entity. So if you say Grimble Grumble, the energy of that thought goes to him somehow. Is kind of the way I think the mechanism works. That's why I think Barnaby didn't have resistance there, because what I think happened is that Barnaby was quite happy to be named. I certainly, when you first named him, felt like I was going to lift off the map with goosebumps, if you recall. And I think that therefore there's just a bit of an innate, if it's not jealousy, it's like a fight over resources. You know, like in Monsters Inc., they like collecting screens, right? I think
Yeah.
fairies collect fascination, and it's kind of like that's what they eat. Sort of, they eat your curiosity, fascination, wonder, and amazement. And they also eat some of the energy of your creativity and your childlike wonder and all these things that any person can possess. This is what I think, so on some weird way, fuels the interaction at minimum, but maybe even fuels them. And I just wonder, is it a situation where Grimble Grumble is feeling deprived of his power up because the episode named Barnaby and not him? And so, due to the fact that he is semi-resident in my head and in my machine, he flexed again. And is it because it's you, going back to where I started, that it was able to trigger off again? Because I think you're an extremely powerful conduit for the phenomenon. I think part of the reason that is, Hannah, is because you're such like it's just an awesome soul. You're clearly a loving, love-filled person. And the Fae definitely like that about you. If I'm just being intuitive, I don't know this for sure. They never called me up and said, here's a checklist of things we like about Hannah. But I've done enough of the show to know the contactees have something in common. And it starts and ends almost entirely with having a good heart. And so that's a great measure. I think that the fact that like Grimble Grumble is flexing around your episode and turfing it is actually a huge compliment, because it means that that conversation that you and I are holding is totally infested with Fae the whole time it's happening. Anyway, that's my take. That is an extremely long intro to an episode. I've never really done that before bringing someone on, but hey, first time for everything. So
For sure.
okay, well, Hannah, you know, we don't have to exactly recreate the last episode, obviously, but you had some amazing stories that were related to season 1 of the show, and you had some just, you know, independent stories that were amazing. And since we've spoken, you have found some objects that are equally amazing as they relate to the first time you told me some stories too, because you were talking about this white deer and these deer. And anyway, so lots of ground to cover. Let's just back up and I'll say this part again. Look, now that I've done all that, I'm doubly in debt to you in terms of just sitting and listening. Take all the time you want, and if you'd be so kind, just walk myself and the audience into the things you've come to talk about today.
Okie dokie. Well, I have, let's see, like 6 or 7 things. They're all just very, I don't want to diminutize them by saying small things, but I'll just okay. So all I want to say at least half of these, if not more than half, have happened like over a year ago now. Like you said, we've been planning to do this for a while, and and a lot of these happened around that time. So um I've kind of exhausted them in my mind. So I just I don't know. Sometimes, you're able to talk yourself out of things, but your reassurance is quite validating, and I'm not gonna let it get to my head because yeah. But anyway, the first thing that happened was probably, I'm not gonna give exact times because I genuinely, my memory is not the best as far as like timelines, but I know it was at least 1 or 2 winters ago, like fall winter ish time. Um, but there was the first incident was this one afternoon. Um, my boyfriend Brennan and I were getting ready to like kind of hang out on the floor. Sometimes we sat on the floor instead of the couch and just like watch TV, eat dinner, chill, maybe smoke, whatever. And he had gotten up and gone to the bathroom, bedroom. Don't really remember. He didn't tell me where he was going down the hall. But he was gone for like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. And he comes back. And I had been listening to Fascinating Fae for quite some time and obsessing, just a tad. And I think I had like not a whole journal, but I definitely had at least a few pages of notes about certain episodes. And so, I was having trouble going through a day without bringing up something to him. And he comes back from down the hall and he's like, hey, so you know how you've been listening to that podcast a lot? And I was like, yeah. And excited because he's asking me about it. And I'm like, ooh, where's this going? And he's like, you know how you've been talking about it a lot? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like, we've also been talking about ravens and crows that he's been seeing at work at the marina. That he really likes those types of birds, and he likes like Viking-ish type things. So I was like, yeah, like I know all that stuff. And he's like, okay, well, I was just, I don't know, in the bathroom, bedroom, wherever he was. Um, and he was like, I was on my phone, like I don't know if he was playing games, social media, whatever, scrolling for a minute. Um, and he was like, and then I hit my home screen, and his wallpaper, which originally was like a black background with like basically a galaxy type image on it, but it was very like neon sign-esque in a way. Like very bright, like very, very bright colors. But still like animated. And so that was his original background. And he's like, it changed to black feathers, like raven or crow feathers, or, like just black feathers as his background. And I was like, okay. And I got a little like breathy, like how I'm kind of feeling now, where like my heart's palpitating a little bit and it's like a little harder to breathe. And I was like, I need you to like tell me if you're messing with me right now, because I have a tendency to be a little naive, and I know that about myself. And like, if you're messing with me, it's not cool. Like I'm likely to believe you, and that like would hurt my feelings. And I'm getting a little choked up thinking about it, but like, you need to tell me if you're joking. And he's like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, I have no idea. Bodhi, I have no idea how this happened. And I was like, all right, well, that's that's weird. And I think I told you about it shortly after in an audio or something, but yeah, so that was the first thing. The next thing was the owls. So there was another night, probably close to the first night with the phone background. But like it could have been a week or a month later, give or take. But I know that I was around, it wasn't Eliezer. I think, ironically enough, it was around one of the episodes owl related. You have a few of them because they like to make appearances, but I want to say it was in the either somewhere between late 20 episodes and like mid 30 episodes in there somewhere. I think it was a woman. Liz? There was an owl that was visiting her. I think it was around her episode. And I was talking. Oh, okay. It was around that episode, but that's not what I was talking to Brennan about. He was playing video games, and I was like standing in front of our patio door with the screen. The screen was closed because we have a cat, but I was just like standing in front of the cool air coming through the door while talking to him because his desk was right next to the door.
Can you bring
And
me cigar?
I was talking to him. Who was that? That was Chandran? Am I saying that right?
Chandran.
Chandran. Okay. Was he was the one talking about the negative entities, um
Pulling him down the hallway by his ankles, and
what did he call them though? It was like a mechanical word. It was like,
oh yeah,
and I had heard the word before.
I'll meditate on that as you continue to talk. And yes,
Okay.
Liz is the woman from Australia who the owl showed up and started to land on her shoulder after her mom went into a coma.
Yeah, so I was around. I had either just, I don't know if they're next to each other or not. I genuinely don't. But I jump around. So like it's perfectly rational that I would have listened to one and then seen the other, just saying. But it was around when her episode had just come out, but I think I was talking to Brennan about Chandran's episode, and I was talking about those negative entities that he kind of referred to as like if our world is made of love and fear, it's like the fear-based entities, right? Like, because like you were either having like really nice, like a loved one that passed away, ghosty type experience, or you're having these fae experiences, or like you're having like one of those scary ass like shadow people that are trying to pull you off your bed type experiences. And it's ones that feed off of or encourage your love and trust and faith and pixie dust and like all the stuff. And then it's the ones that are creating fear in you, like sleep paralysis demons and things. And like the specific ones he was talking about, I feel like are the core of that. And I like to think of things in like numbers and colors, and the colors of like the chakras that align our physical bodies. There's like 7 of them, and they're energy centers. And the ones he was talking about gave off like a very red energy, and it kind of feels like the root chakra, which is basically where we're stuck as like a collective, where we're just based on like survival and our most basic primal needs. And it just kind of like I take things from like the spiritual and apply it to the mundane, because if you look at the fear-based entities that are trying to absorb that energy from you and create more of it in you, and then you look at our society with all the bad stuff happening in the world and with all the like sexualizing of literally everything and involving children, and just look at the bad parts, like the things that are like kind of like depleting us and numbing us and like bringing us down vibrationally. And I just kind of align that to the same level as like, the dark cloud in your room that freaks you up when you're sleeping. And I actually had one of those last night, not exactly like that, but it was a weird, like, not even a full dream. It was just like a moment last night. But yeah, I kind of think of those as like the same thing, but showing up in like basic, normal, mundane society, day to day stuff. Anyway, I'm getting off track, but I was talking to Brennan about that in not so many words at all. But um, out of my window, or out of the open patio door, we started to hear owls hooting, and I believe you have that audio. That's what's in, I think, Eliezer's episode intro or something, but yeah, where we just started hearing, I'm almost certain there are two of them because I could hear them sort of echoing each other. But I couldn't, yeah, but I never saw them. They were very close and they sounded larger. Mind you, I have never, apart from like the zoo, right? I have never seen or heard owls in my life. Like I've seen the videos, I know what they sound like, and I've seen like, at the zoo, like, big eyes and everything. Like I know what an owl is, but I've never actually like encountered one in my day to day. So when I heard it, I was like, what is that? Like I almost wasn't like acknowledging it for a minute, and then Brennan and my cat both started like my cat started like meowing and pawing at the screen and trying to climb up it, which she's not supposed to, but and then I was like, oh, like those are, oh my God, like no fucking way, like because I had just listened to like the Liz episode and like you've had your experiences with your owls and like whatnot, so I was like, this is really cool, and it was more cool because they like wouldn't shut up. Like this went on for like 15 minutes to the point that I took my dog out to like, bring him outside to go to the bathroom, and I was trying to figure out like what tree they were in. And when we got down to like behind our building to like where our bedroom window would be, we were on the ground like in front of that part of the building, and they were basically in the tree like right across from it. And I believe that's when I, took my phone out and sent you an audio, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't believe this is happening right now. Like thank you. Like I was like literally thanking the owls like just for coming around and like hooting, whether it was at me or just like it sounded like they were calling babies home or something. Like it was like hoo hoo hoo. Um yeah, so that was pretty neat.
Let me just jump in here real quick because a couple things have come up. I am later at this today, in maybe 2 hours, talking with a gentleman named Mike Cleland, who's like the owl UFO guy. If anyone's familiar with him, he's made a pretty good name for himself around this concept of owls associated with the paranormal and ufology. But so that's a really just interesting thing because like when I actually talked with you the first time, I forgot to mention something. That's why I needed to jump in. After I had saved your audio and saved the main episode file, I then went and captured the audio from the Eliezer intro, because remember I was asking you about it, which episode it was in, and then I also went and captured the audio of your power going out. And it was after I captured the audio of your power going out and I just was listening to it again because I hadn't listened in a year, and I just was remembering like that time in the show and like that moment when your power went out, how trippy that was. And then I sat down and I was talking to Julia about that, and that's where thereafter we had that encounter again. So, and then I think that what happened in part is I was getting pretty tripped out listening to the owl recording again that you're referring to. And I was getting pretty tripped out listening to the shock in your voice around your power going out. And I think all of that collectively, that between you and I, like woke him back up, and he was definitely, right, like after breakfast, waiting for the moment when he could turf the episode. I really do think that, and Eliezer's episode is when it would have been included, which means that around the time I recorded that would be when it happened. Because I was taking your audio sometimes and putting it into an episode within a day or so. And that one comes right around the same time as a couple of key owl things. There's the Liz part. There's the owl coming to my window while I'm editing Vicky's episode. There's the owl, of course, during episode 37 with my, harrowing night of Fae tug of war for my soul back in my condo in Canada. And so, I think that you were hitting that owl encounter right at the same time that the owl activity was peaking around the show, especially with, the really clear photos that wildlife photographer got of the barred owl coming again to my home, and me being able to walk out and put my video camera in its face, tell it, I think you're a fairy, and then watch it like turn its head around and look right at me. That was quite the moment too. That's right when the owls came and visited you.
Yeah.
There's definitely two, and they are big sounding. I would concur, having edited the audio.
Yeah, and I was surprised because I think, I don't know for sure. I almost want to check, but I feel like it was during somewhat colder, like it was either spring turning into fall or fall turning into winter. And I was like shocked that I couldn't see them because of the state of the leaves on the trees, I believe.
This was
But
definitely fall, and I remember
okay.
that because we talked, and you're like, I was right underneath the tree and I couldn't see them, and the
Yeah.
leaves are bare. You were talking actually about how all the leaves were falling and turning purple that time of year, and how much you love that color purple.
Yeah, there's a few that line the drive up to the apartment complex, and they turn like this really pretty, like almost like a raspberry plum color when they're fallen. But that I didn't actually get to see them again that following year because we had a cold shock and then it warmed up, so they just all dropped.
Oh.
So anyway, not
Anyway,
important.
my apologies for jumping in there, but it's like, yeah, the tail end of your editing included me listening to those clips again for the first time. And then that strangeness happened that I described. And then right afterwards, when I was trying to talk to Jen, I draw a direct through line. If for nothing else, I just had that feeling again where I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm not quite here. Like, this is so strange and happening in front of my eyes. I attribute all of this that we're discussing to that interface between your fandom, your just natural predisposed before you ever heard of Fascinating Fae love and curiosity with this subject matter being sparked alive by the show and then coming into your world manifest. And this is how it was escalating, in my opinion, because I've thought about it a lot. It's like they were kind of showing you the feathers to say we're going to come as birds.
Yeah. And I'm yeah, I always thought it was funny that the first, I guess you could say, interaction that happened was through Brennan, because he is like so skeptical and so logic based that like for something to happen to him before it happens to, and then he actually saw an owl at work shortly around this time, like broad daylight, and I have a video of that as well. Um, but yeah, I think it's funny the first contact was through him because he's probably the only person I would believe to not be messing with me most of the time when it comes to this stuff. But he's very like, not that he doesn't believe it, but he is very much, I need to see something to like really let it sink in type deal. So
Does that not make
um,
him the perfect choice, therefore, for that
yeah,
initial communication by Fae
completely.
logic? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was talking to him about that a couple days ago.
I feel that. I really feel that.
Yep.
Well, Hannah, would you like to carry on? I'd love to hear some more of these events. I'm equally fascinated this time around. No joke.
Yeah, okay. So I believe the power going out was around the same time. I actually don't know. I don't remember exactly what episode it was that you were talking about it, but it was one of the episodes where you were talking about you might have been talking to Brett, I think. You were talking about the dream you had where it was like you dreamed and then you woke up and then you like lived the dream, and you were talking about how like it was 7 o'clock and your power went out, and it was not 7 o'clock my time. I don't remember what time it was. I know it was like midday morning. It was probably a little bit overcast outside, um, just because of the shade in my house at the time, because I can remember pretty much what it looked like. I was doing laundry in the living room and I was listening to the episode on my TV on Spotify, and you literally just talked about how you it was like 7 o'clock and your power went out, and then TV shut off, my dishwasher shut off, my washer shut off, everything in my house just went completely quiet. And I was like, at first I was like, oh shit, like my power's out, like what the hell? And I did the normal things. I checked the energy website and looked for power outages, and sure enough, there was one at my complex and like basically down my entire street. And there wasn't really any kind of explanation for it. No one heard a pop. There wasn't any like, no downed anything. So I was just like, that's strange. And then I turned my TV back on and I was like, oh, like I kind of like went back because I needed to like, re-listen because I was distracted by the fact my power turned off. I like forgot the last like half a minute of whatever you were talking about. And when I go back, it's you saying that, yeah, it was 7 o'clock and my power turned off. And I was like, oh, oh, okay. Like, let me just send you another audio about like, hey, this just happened. Yeah, so that was pretty wild. And I think that's the one where it was like, we didn't mention it before, so I guess I'll go ahead and say it now, where Grumble Grumble went ahead and turned my power off. There you go, dude. Like, I don't know what you want, but
I feel like an oddly strange wave of relief coming over the room. It's I'm not even joking. Some of this stuff for like the uninitiated who aren't like fully up to date with the catalog might just sound like, what are these two people talking about? But it's when you tie in like Brett and the skull and William and his charger and Emma and the cards that you start to understand like there even Becky B and like the dinosaur and her craft supplies. Like there was a pretty epic through line, I think, which climaxed in him showing up at my house that day with that staff looking like the weirdest man I've ever seen,
Yeah.
And to say that you were a part of that is an understatement. I do attribute a lot of like, because you're such a standout contributor as a fan of the show, hugely motivating for me as a person producing it to realize I'm having that kind of impact with the work. And then like you're having it's not like, I mean, even your friend Slavin Fritzkin, I hope I'm saying that right. She had that purple light turn on her bedside light setup.
Oh yeah, it's often whenever we're talking about the show, actually.
So there's that, and then like offline, there's dozens and dozens of people telling me strange stuff. Jay Harvey from Australia, when he was like, meditating, and then his fire alarm started pinging, and then he later gets in his car, and all of a sudden, Fascinating Fae, which he just started listening to, has jumped ahead 37 episodes. 42 minutes into the episode, right to the part where it's talking about me saying my fire alarms were talking to me. And if you recall, he told me he like pulled over, hands shaking, and just listened to the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff going on there, big and small, but I have said this and I'll say it again. There's nothing small. The small stuff is the wedge. They're testing to see if you're paying attention. And if you are, the opportunity to get more from it will come quickly thereafter. And even honestly, like just talking to you, I had trippy shit happen the next day, and so did you. And I hadn't had any high strangeness happen for months here. And I think you're probably in the same camp. But after we spoke to one another, we both got a dose of stuff, right? So in a minute here, we'll get to like what happened post conversation in your life, because that's also really interesting. The stuff you found, it's truly profound in my opinion. But anyway, okay, that's really great, honestly, catch up stuff. And I know it can be super hard to do an episode again and feel like, just feel the excitement of the storytelling, because you're like, oh, I just did this. Really, I'm still feeling like the truth of it all coming through. And it actually gives us a unique opportunity to reflect back on it a little bit and make this episode better. So I'm having a great time. If you would be so kind as to carry on, I'm going to kick back and receive some more of your stories here.
Yeah, no problem. So before I get into the birds and Barnaby, there's actually some stuff I didn't get to touch on later, and because Barnaby kind of ties into almost present stuff now, I'm just gonna like flip-flop. But we had taken like a family trip to Gatlinburg October 6th of last year, I believe. Partially for my boyfriend's birthday and partially just as like a fun vacation. And I had never been to Gatlinburg. I'd never been to Tennessee before I moved here. But it was just, supposed to be fun. And got a cabin and we saw black bears like every day. It was awesome. But while there, we happened upon this little occult shop, which I have the word witch tattooed on me. So like, I just, I'm a little out of practice with my craft right now, but I do dabble here and there. And so obviously I need to go inside this cute little shop. And while in there, I was looking for a new tarot deck or an oracle deck, preferably, because I hadn't really gotten the hang of tarot. It's a lot to remember, and I procrastinate. I have a perfectionist thing and like imposter syndrome and like all that. So like it's hard. It's probably why I haven't been doing a lot with that lately. But I just wanted to find something cute and like I just wanted something like cute and symbolic. Um, So I was in the shop with my boyfriend's brother, and we were just kind of like shopping around. And I was looking at this one deck with a black cat on it, and I was like, "Oh, that's like it was about familiars, like animals that come to you and are like your basically partner in crime or whatever." And I have a black cat named Raven, so I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get this one. Like it seems really familiar and." It's just really cute. And, there were like a few of them in the stack, it wasn't the only one. And my boyfriend's brother, he was like, well, what about this one? And it was a tarot deck instead of like an oracle deck. And it was the only one of its kind there. And I was like, oh, this is kind of like striking. Like, it's not typically the art that I would go for, but like, something about it is like calling to me a little bit. And so I picked it up and I was like, okay, I'll go with this. Like, it was picked out by someone that I love and trust. And like, it's like a little tie to the event or not event, like the moment in time, a little like, what's it called? Souvenir or whatever. And while I was in that shop, I also picked up this new pendulum that's sitting next to me. And I got a keychain and a little thing for my hair, like a toothpick or a chopstick that like ties your hair up. And I was like, okay, cool. Like I feel satisfied with my little purchase. Like I probably spent too much money, but like this is awesome. And later on in the trip, we were hanging out in the kitchen and we had also purchased moonshine because it's Knoxville, so you have to go get Smoky Mountain moonshine. And so I personally had picked out blackberry because it sounded the most appealing to me. And it's purple. So, I mean, and so later in the vacation, we were hanging out in the living room or in the kitchen, like at the little dinette table. And I had poured myself a rather large wine glass of blackberry moonshine. And we had just finished like hanging out in the hot tub and we were just kind of like warming up inside. And so I had my bathing suit under my cover up and I was holding my blackberry moonshine and my boyfriend's brother's like, you match your deck. And I was like, what do you mean? And he holds it up to me and there's flowers in the deck that are similar to the flowers that were in my bathing suit, and the flowers are kind of surrounding this hand holding a goblet or a wine glass of a dark liquid, which could be blackberry moonshine. And he's like, yeah, and then didn't you not buy one of the keychains that looks like these pentacles right here? And I was like, oh shit. And he was like, if you kind of want to stretch it, you also got the chopstick and there's the sword and the wand right there, and they don't look exactly to the chopstick, but just like the goblet and the pentacle and the flowers in the tarot deck were just like very standoutish, and I was like, wow, that's kind of spooky. And so we all just kind of ended up playing with these tarot cards, and I this is the part of these experiences that I really wish I had. Like, I know I have videos, like really long audio videos or something of like us talking about these tarot decks, but I don't know where I put them. And I meant to write down like what happened in like chronological order, but it was just so much, and it felt like such little like nitpicky details that would have had to be like really explained. But there was just so much symbolism going on with these cards, and they were like calling us out and being real accurate, and as we were like talking about them and going through whatever they were doing for us, we kept having, which, I mean, there's trees everywhere. It was probably just squirrels, but it was just like really interesting moments where we would have like a acorn like drop on the roof of the house, and like those were times when I was like talking about Petunia or Grumble Grumble, and, and around the times that we would bring them up, like things would start hitting the house and all that. And yeah, so that was just a very interesting turn of events. So yeah, this tarot deck, I actually don't use it very often. Not that it scares me. I just, it feels like it's something you need to handle at, like, I don't know. I've been like not avoiding it, just I don't know. There's a weird energy, like when you try to put different parts of a battery against each other or the same ends, there's like that you can't touch this type type, what's it called? Force field?
Uh,
Like, yeah, like a
like a
force field
magnetism.
almost.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
So I don't know, but anyway, that was Gatlinburg. And then going back to the birds, um, again, around the same time, like winter, fall, um, I know there was probably frost on the ground, but it hadn't like necessarily snowed yet. So I'm gonna say this could have been like anywhere between November and January. Um, but I had, okay, let me see if I can get this in the right order, because I don't know if I did it right the last time. But okay, so the first thing that happened was I was taking my dog out, and it must have been a weekend because I do remember it was like the first time I was taking him out, but it was like 11 a.m. So I was taking him out, and the way our old apartment is set up is you walk out my door and you're on a platform that's like, I don't know, maybe 10 by 10. And there's like 8 stairs that go down to the next platform that then goes straight out to the parking lot. Or you can keep going down on the other side of that same platform to the back of the building, which has the last platform that goes out to this little strip of grass that kind of lines the back of the buildings. And there's a chain link fence. It's like this patch of grass is maybe, it's like a walking path that's maybe like 5-6 feet like wide. And then there's the chain link fence, and there's a little bit extra, like, greenery space with trees and shrubs and, normal what you would see. And then it kind of drops down like that down to what is a river that kind of like, I think it's the Cumberland River or something, but it kind of like goes all the way around Nashville. Um, and so we go, all the way to the back of the building on this patchy grass, or this grassy path. And we go to the left. So we're walking parallel with the chain link fence, and we pass one large green fieldish type space between buildings. And then we go behind the next building to the left of my building. And we don't go halfway down the length of that building before I notice that at the very end, on the other side of the building, where there's another like green grassy field, there is like, I want to say somewhere between 15 to 20 birds, just like they're not in any kind of form or pattern. They're just kind of spread out in this grassy area, and it's multiple robins, cardinals, and there might have been a little stray blue jay here or there. But it was mostly robins and cardinals, and they were just like, I don't know if they were grazing or what. They seemed very still. Uh, like I said, they weren't in any kind of like formation or anything, but it was just kind of felt like I was not like I disturbed them, because we got like maybe within 15 to 20 feet, and like they didn't necessarily move away from us. They were just kind of like minding their business, doing whatever amongst themselves. But Bodhi didn't necessarily react to them either. Like, he saw them, and he has a very strong prey drive. Like, he's pit bull shepherd lab mix, so like he's a very hunting and not letting anyone get within 10 feet of me, and so like if he sees a bird, he's gonna like lunge and pull my arm out of its socket. But he looked at them and just kind of sniffed the ground and like was very nonchalant. And I had this like little, again, like that breathy, like almost adrenaline, but not quite that crazy. Like I was a little shaky, but I still had my motor functions. But I just kind of felt like what I'm seeing is not normal, or it is normal, but it's not supposed to be like this normal. Like, I like, not that I shouldn't have been there, but I'm seeing something. I don't know, like it was just very strange to see a bunch of birds just, or maybe someone just threw birdseed down. That could be it, but they didn't seem to be like actively eating. They were just kind of like maybe occasionally hopping around, but for the most part being pretty still. And I was just like, okay, this is strange, but I didn't want to get too close that then Bodhi decides he wants to engage. So I didn't want to disrupt whatever that was. So I was like, let's just go this way. And we just turned around and headed back toward the apartment. And that's actually on the opposite side of our apartment from where the owls took place. So like, if we had walked to that back grassy path behind our building, the owls would have been like 5 to 10 feet to my right. This bird encounter thing happened like 30 feet to the left. So, and actually around where those birds were hanging out, on the other side of the chain link fence next to them, there's this fallen tree that you can see like where the roots would be, but it's kind of like, decayed, and it's just hollow now, and it's got the opening of where the roots kind of spread out, and it just kind of looks like a little portal. I don't know necessarily if it is. It just crossed my mind, and I was like, that's kind of funny that they were right there. But so there's that. And so, I just kind of went about my business and was like, wow, that's strange, and moving on, mundanity, day-to-day life, And like that night or the following night, I had a dream where I was in bed. It was like I was waking up in the middle of the night, but what we normally use for covers is like a flat sheet and like a bamboo blanket, so it's very thin, but it's also soft, so it's like it's cool enough for the summertime, but it'll keep you warm in the winter. But it's very thin, very flat, like not very like duvet or comforter-esque, But when I wake up in this dream, it's like I have like a very pillowy, cloud-like comforter on me. And like if you just take a duvet or a comforter and you plop it on a bed, it's gonna make those like shadowy little caves and like little nest imprints and like little crevices that you could sneak your hands through and like scare a cat, like. And in my dream, I sit up in bed, and the comforter or the cover is around my legs, and I'm looking at it, and there's all these like little crevices and caves and little nest areas, and it's creating a bunch of shadows because it's the middle of the night, but my eyes are adjusted, so it's like dark, but I can still see. And out of the shadows and crevices and caves, like literally out of the shadows, like start to materialize these birds. And there's again, like maybe not as many, like what I say, 15 to 25 or something. There was probably only like maybe 8 or so, but it was ravens and cardinals, and they came out and they were looking at me and I was looking at them, and I had this feeling wash over me of just like everything you're ever have worried about, are worrying about, or will worry about is gonna be fine. Like, I just got the most, like a tsunami of peace just washes over me. And I literally woke up from that dream like sobbing my eyes out. Like tears had already been running down my face. And I was just like, I have no idea. Like I had like in the dream, I had this one phrase or sentence and it was very specifically worded. And I woke up and I couldn't verbalize it, but I felt it. And I was just like, if I could just remember that sentence. And I can't, but it was just like, I haven't really experienced that sense of like, it's gonna be okay so definitively. Like, I don't, like, very rare, like, I don't even know if there's the same time in my life that I felt that way. But, um, there's maybe moments I've definitely come close, but that was just ultimate, you're good. And so following that dream, this could have been a week later, 2 weeks later. It was long enough away that it took me a minute to link. Like, I don't necessarily think this dream is related to the bird dream, but it was similar in what I took away from it. But I basically, a following night at some point, had another dream about a fae named Barnaby. And we were, I think it was like I was lying on my side facing the edge of the bed, and he was standing there, but he was eye level with me. So he was a shorty, but he wasn't like, domino shorty. He was like I don't know, like a very large stuffed animal shorty. Like maybe like 18 inches. I'm not positive, but he was eye level with me, laying on my side, looking at the edge, like toward the wall off the bed. And we had a very short, but very like blunt, not blunt, but like a very short and clear conversation. And I don't remember any of it. It's funny how that works. But I woke up and I was like in the process of, I mean, I don't even know like how time works in dreams or whatever, but between the process of the dream of him fading and me waking up, the thought in my mind was, I didn't catch his name. And then as I'm waking up and like my eyes are beginning to open, his name Barnaby is like echoing in the back of my head. And I was like, okay, I'll take that. Like, all right, I think I get it. um, yeah, so those are all is that all the back then? Yeah, that's all the like last year and a half ago type dreams that have taken place. And then I have like 3 more that are recent-ish.
Going back to just some of the things you said quickly before you get to the tail end of your stories, your power going out is, in fact, Hannah, if you don't already know, one of my all-time favorite moments producing the show. So thank you again for being, a fan of the show and allowing that shit to go down.
It didn't give me much of a choice, so,
I'm not surprised to hear that you identify as a witch, though I did not previously know that about you. If there was ever a good witch,
I don't know how much I'd agree with that. I'm definitely as above, so below type deal, but Yeah, my tattoo actually, as above, so below. You can read it upside down or right side up, just in case.
Well, all of that tracks. None of that dissuades me from my original point, which is that if there was ever a good witch, I think you've got that, hat firmly on. There's your Danielle kind of witch who's like, you can just tell in the in the voice that she knows, And then there's your kind of witch who's like able to embody a really positive, uplifting kind of thing, and is almost like, oh, we're tripping over herself as these like magical things fall out of her purse. You know what I mean? Like, it's really great to see the diversity. Even like a person like Ruby, who's like a quick-witted, fast-talking, advocate for underdog teacher, like teaching middle school students and secretly like making objects disappear when she's at home behind closed doors. It's really interesting to talk to all of you. I'll say again, it's been a real treat doing this show and continues to be. That it's really interesting about the tarot cards. And I know that feeling of something talking to you when you're asking questions. In my case, it was a fire alarm. In your case, it's acorns. I know that feeling though. It's a weird feeling when it goes down. You get prickly, float off the map kind of feeling. And you're like, does that? And I do think that like they have a kind of interface ability with reality.
Yeah.
And they can certainly like drop an acorn or make a fire alarm blip, or for that matter, I mean, come through walls, move objects, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And none of this stuff actually, is that surprising now, but at the time that it was really occurring, both for me and for you, because I'm like, I do produce the show, but I'm like the first person on the roller coaster train, I guess. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I got no one, no one's hair in my face, but we're all on the same roller coaster together. And I get that firsthand plummet feeling first as we go over the edge, because I'm the one who's got all the connected pieces behind the scenes as I'm weaving the episodes together. But when a person like you and others, there's definitely many standout fans and participants in the show who I consider co-creators of Fascinating Fae, come together like was happening there. That's in and of itself super fascinating, because it's like a collective form of magic, I think, was what was going on. And so, it's just really nice to hear you're part of it and to what was going on with you at the same time. Because, the more people can hear the stories of those who were experiencing the Fascinating Fae effect, for lack of a better term, the easier I think it becomes to really accept that that's what it was. Because even still myself, I'm like, what, did that really happen? All that stuff? And the answer is yes, it did. And what does it mean? That's the next question. But anyway, you're a big part of my thought process as I create episodes still to this day. I'm making them for you and others who I feel like are like you, and need it. So thanks for being there. It's a huge comfort to know, like, when I drop an episode, you're going to be one of the people listening. Anyway, Hannah, with all that said, please, let's get into some of this like more recent stuff. Because I know, when we talked last, and since we tried to do our first episode, there's been other strange stuff happening that I want to hear about too. So all of that, please, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, no problem. So the reason I wanted Barnaby to kind of be the last thing about past experiences is because I think in our first recording of this, I kind of made a connection that he might have like come back a little bit. So what happened was I work part-time. My second job is basically being a custodian at a soil testing lab. It's basically a break room, like 10 offices, and then the back part is the dusty soil dirt covered lab where the guys do their testing from whatever they bring back in the field. And they're basically testing for if the ground is sturdy enough to be built upon. Not super important, I don't think, but anyway. So what I do when I get there is I plugged in my phone in the lobby because it was almost dead, and I wanted to continue listening to none other than the Fascinating Fae. It was an old episode though, because this was like, I don't know, maybe 2 months, 3 months ago by now. I have no idea. It was not as cold as it is now. So at least a month and a half or so ago. And so yeah, not a new episode. It was Kentucky kidnapping actually. And so I plug my phone in and I play the episode and I connect my headphones and I have those on. I have one on and one ear off, but I'm still wearing headphones and playing it quite loud because I will have to be vacuuming and whatnot, and I want to be able to hear it while I'm doing that. Anyway, so I set my phone up. I have to position it a certain way on the charger because my charging port is not great. And so it has to sit a certain way for it to charge properly. And so I'm fiddling with that. I set my lunchbox in the break room and I just kind of like set my stuff up. The way this place is laid out, just for understanding for a moment, the front lobby that you walk into is like a wide rectangle. It's probably like, I don't know, 10 by 12 or something, okay? And on either side of the back wall of the lobby is the hallway, and it goes off to the right and to the left. And if you go to the left, there's one office on your left and one in front of you, and then the hallway goes down to the right. And there's, on the other side of the wall of the lobby is the break room. And then surrounding the break room on either side are these hallways that then connect at the back with a bathroom on either side of the back of the break room. And then the open area beyond that the hallways connect into is another large area with like open offices. So like kind of cubicle type offices up against each other. And then if you're again in and there's 2 doors on either side to go into the lab. But also in the lobby, if you go to the right, instead of going to the back by that open office area, you go down a hall past a meeting room and another office into a computer lab that then opens up to another section of open offices that then has a 3rd bathroom. So whether you follow that or not, this place basically is a really weird queue with the line in the queue kind of stretching over to the right a little bit and then opening up to like a flat line at the end of the queue. I don't, if you're following. So basically what I do is I go from the left to the right. So I go all the way around the break room to the very right side where the very last open office area and bathroom are. And I'm going into every single room and area, and I'm turning every single light on, and I'm opening up every single door except the doors to the lab because it's gross back there. Just a lot of dust and defeats the purpose of my cleaning. And the reason I open every door and turn on every light is because as I clean, if I finish a room, vacuum, wipe down garbage, I turn off the light. And if it's the proper room, like a bathroom, I'll close the room to be just slightly open, like just ajar. I don't close any doors. I just, put them just so. So I do this and I go to every single thing. I open every light, open every door, turn on every light. And then I go back to the beginning and I grab the vacuum because it's like one of my least favorite things. And so that's the first thing I do is I go from each office and I vacuum. And it's, I have to plug it in and then stretch out the cord and vacuum as many hallways or as many offices as I can, like 2 or 3 at a time. And then I have to go unplug it, move it to another outlet, do the same thing. And, it's a little tedious and it takes a while. And while I'm doing this, I also have my headphones on, so my auditory capabilities are pretty much moot while I'm listening to Kentucky Kidnapping and vacuuming and just lots of sound. But in the time, so I go from each office off the hallway surrounding the break room and the meeting room to the right of the lobby, and then the very last computer, not computer room, but beyond the computer room, that last open office area is my last stop in vacuuming. So by the time I get all the way around the break room to that area, it's gone from probably 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So a whole hour has now passed by. And I plug the vacuum in and I go, because the computer lab is like vinyl or something, like the fake wood flooring. So I'm going over the threshold of that fake wood flooring onto the carpet of the open office area. And on the same wall that I am coming in from, in that doorway, is the door to the bathroom, the last bathroom, which should be open and the light should be on. But as I vacuum into this room, I notice the door is shut and the light is off. And I get the feeling like of tinglies going down my spine right now. And the like, I don't know, like there's butterflies between my shoulder blades. And I'm like, oh, like I think I literally went, oh. And I was like, all right, like I had my headphones on and I was vacuuming. Like one of these guys could have came back from the field or maybe just popped in for a minute, had to do something real quick, and they used the bathroom and clearly didn't understand what I was doing by opening the door and turning the light on and closed the door and turned the light off on their way out. And like I didn't hear them. Like that's totally plausible. But I was still like adrenaline spiked to high heaven and not understanding like why I'm having such a strong reaction, because like there's totally a logical explanation to this, like, but I'm still kind of freaking out inside, but I'm acting cool on the outside in case anyone's watching. And so I'm like, okay, and this is all like I'm going through that whole like little freak out in my head in like 5 seconds. And I'm like, all right, so I turn the vacuum off, I prop it up and I walk away and I go to the lobby where my phone should be plugged in a certain way and off, because even if I didn't turn my phone off, it turns off in like a minute because the display times out. So I don't like my battery doesn't die. That's like the whole purpose of plugging it in the first place. So I go to my phone because I'm gonna grab it to Snapchat my friend who's like very familiar with the paranormal and just like freak out a little bit to her and explain to her what just happened. And my phone is on and open, like unlocked, to Spotify, and the Kentucky Kidnapping page on Spotify is like open, which, first of all, like not going to the most obvious issue with this, but the Kentucky Kidnapping page like being open may not seem weird, but if I was to go into my phone, unlock my phone, go into Spotify, the first thing it's going to pull up is all of my playlists and my recently listened to, and then the Kentucky Kidnapping is going to be really small at the bottom. I would have to then tap on the small part of the Kentucky Kidnapping at the bottom to then bring up the title page and like the play and next and you know that whole section. So like what would have happened would be, first of all, someone either knew the code or had the thumbprint of me or my boyfriend, because those are the only two people who have any kind of knowledge of how to access into my phone. Or and they would have opened it and it probably would have been the home screen and they would have had to go into like open up the episode that I was listening to, or maybe it just opened to that title page. Either way, what's really weird, the real weird part is my phone was open and unlocked and just sitting there for who knows how long, like an hour, the whole hour I was vacuuming. That's impossible because I know I clicked it off. And even if for some reason I did not click it off and I'm just imprinting that into my mind, it would not have stayed on for an entire hour. So logical explanation for the door being shut and the light being off, but like for that to then cause me to come look at my phone and that be the way in which I find my phone. Like, not for nothing, but if I was gonna mess around with somebody, like, I would do something that, like, they think, like, all right, maybe I just forgot to lock my door, or maybe I just forgot to open this door and turn this light on, or what have you, but then that's going to then cause them to go check something or share it. And so me going to my phone to have to share this experience then prompts me to be like, okay, well, no one can no one can open my phone. Like, nope. And I was alone. Like, I had opened every door, gone in the lab, and turned on every light. There was nobody else there with me. So, like, if one of the guys stopped in, they were there for like 5 seconds. And you were just driving by and had to use the bathroom real quick? Like, what? Like, I know I was there for like an hour doing that stuff, but like, you must have had to show up really early if you were there for more than like 10 minutes. And I feel like some of the guys will come find me because they know how easily I scare, and they'll be like, hey, just so you know, I'm here, and like be in my visual, like, so I know they're there. But no one did that. So anyway, so I send video to Laura and my friend who's, familiar with the paranormal. And I think I messaged Danielle, and she told me like a blessing of the 4 directions that I could say. And that helped a little bit. But like my adrenaline, my like prey instinct, like my I'm in the presence of something larger than myself instinct, like, was not going away. And so I called Brennan, and I was on the phone with him, and I was like, I just need to hear your voice and like tell you what happened, because like I'm alone and I'm like low key freaking out. And as I'm talking to him, I hear like a bang in the lab. And at this point I'm like, I wouldn't say I'm scared, okay? I'm just very curious and like, what the hell is happening, that I'm just like almost a little fed up. So I barged through the lab door, and I'm like, hello, like, who is here? Like, what's good? Like, what? Who? Hello, anyone out here? Like, nah. And someone comes from behind me, like back in the offices, and he's like, hey, like, sorry, I didn't mean to freak you out. I'm just here to do something real quick, and like, I'll be out of your hair in no time. And I'm like, oh, no, you're good. I'm like, but were you here like an hour ago and like use the bathroom? Like, I know that's a weird question, but like, and he's like, no. He's like, I was here at 5. And I was like, I wasn't even here at 5. So never mind. I was like, do you know if anyone else was here? Like, within the last hour? He's like, maybe. He's like, possibly. He's like, we're kind of like ghosts, we come in and out. And I'm like, yeah, no kidding, buddy. You have no idea. And so he does his thing. He let me know when he was leaving. And once I saw him, I told Brendan, I'm like, there's another human here. I feel better. Like, I still feel weird. Like, I had goosebumps all over my body up until I was halfway home on the highway. Like, they did not stop the entire time. And I had just like, vacuuming was the first thing I had to do. Like, I had to do an entire like 3.5 to 4 hour clean, and I got that done in like 2 hours, because I was like, I'm not staying here any longer than I have to. Not because I was like, again, scared, but like, I don't like the way I'm feeling. I need to go calm down. And like, doing mundane things right now is like not the vibe. So yeah, so all that takes place, and I believe in the first taking of this episode, I was talking to you about the other podcasts that I enjoy listening to. Like, we talked about Strange Familiars and Sasquatch Chronicles and Expanded Perspectives. And one of the Expanded Perspectives episodes that really sticks in my mind is one of the few. They have like maybe a total of 5 on Spotify episodes about the Fae. And it's not just about the Fae, like, they're just a couple like stories they do about them, and then there's like also Wolf Dog, or I mean Dog Man, or like, something else. So it's not just Fae, but there's one of them where they're talking about this guy who's laying, or I don't know if it's a guy, but this person who's laying in bed, and they
their dog had recently passed away, so who normally sleeps with them, okay? And their back is to their phone, which is on their nightstand, and they wake up suddenly in the middle of the night and they notice a light on, and so they turn around, like look over their shoulder at their nightstand, and there is a small diminutive human being, crouched down looking at his phone or at their phone. And he describes this person, and I just kind of imagined like a 12 to 18 foot little pixie girl, like kneeling on one leg and standing like squat like on the other one, like half sitting on her foot, and just like kind of poking at his phone screen. And and then he looks away because he's like, okay, if I look away and I look back, it's not really there, like, and he looks back, and sure enough, it's gone, but his phone light is still on. And I had been telling you about that episode in the first taking of this, and then I told you about Barnaby, and then I thought about the fact I had told you about that episode, and I thought that maybe my phone being on was Barnaby, but I had absolutely no inkling of that when it happened. It was just in speaking with you and reminiscing about that expanded perspective episode where I was like, oh, like I kind of had a little image of him looking over the table my phone was on and just like, do, 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 like, like going and like turning off the light and slamming. And I don't know if he slammed the door. He could have. I didn't hear it. So like maybe he just like creaked it shut real sneakily, right? And then he like fairy speeds his way over to my phone and like fucks with that. And like I don't see him because he's too. I don't see them. I don't get to see them. My purpose in life is apparently believing without seeing, and it's frustrating sometimes, but that's just like the little mental image I got in my head, and I was just like, oh, maybe that was him. And I have no idea, but now I leave offerings at my fire mantle, so.
I I love this story. They're like that. They'll do the last door,
Yeah.
like I just pointed out. They waited till they finished all the edits, and that's just their style. And yeah, this whole thing about technology, Terry kind of gave me like a really interesting one to chew on, which is they move fast enough that they're actually just touching your phone and you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like a really interesting thing to ponder, because having seen one move, this is like not out of the realm of possibility to me.
Mm-hmm.
Someone on the UFO Chronicles comment after I came on the show said a really interesting thing about time dilation, and how the reason he thinks I perceived my fairy to instantaneously achieve velocity is because time was dilated. Like it had really, normally sped up like a normal thing would, but because time had been changed, I just looked at it as instantaneously occurring. And if that's potentially how part of glamoring works, then yes, they could be right there zipping so fast that you don't see them, according to like the Terry model.
Right.
Or, I often wonder, are they just like, because they're pure energy, just in their energy form, entering your device and doing it that way? Is it like a telepathic interfacing? But I am utterly convinced that what happened there is the whole story starts with, it's really interesting because your cat's name is Raven, and then you get raven feathers. There's something there. So it starts with your phone and ends with your phone in a way. So it's been Barnaby the whole time, in fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's crazy.
And because I think that's true is why Grimble Grumble was jealous, because it's potentially inviting another Fae character into the mind of the audience, for which he wants most of the real estate of the audience's mind to belong to him. And so it's worth noting that thus far anyway, this episode's been pretty much glitch-free. I would say 99.9% glitch-free. Maybe we've appeased the motherfucker one more time with a little bit of nod and shout out, which seems to be how that satisfies that one. But other Fae, like you're talking about, might need a different way of being satisfied. Offerings is something that I used to laugh at But then I'm like, no, wait, they can take real stuff. So yeah, they can like, they're on some level, whether it's physical or metaphysical, maybe they are in fact consuming what is left for them. And there's literal times where the stuff is gone, and there's other times where it's still there, but they may still be consuming it as per the Ron way of understanding how they were eating the cookie. You know, he says it pretty well. He's like, they're not physically eating the cookie, but they're feeding off of the vibration of that cookie, the sugary, sweet, delightful thing that it is. It also has something that they can feast on. It's all just so interesting. And, you know, one of the things that like truly just makes me stop is that after we talked, and I, again, like hadn't had anything pretty weird happen in this house, the very next morning, we had that visitation in the kitchen. And then I had the audio go down, which I, you know, referred to at the beginning of the episode. And the way that it happened, like with the flipping of audio as I was talking about Grimble Grumble, it's just so signature. It's like you're listening to me talk about Grimble Grumble knocking out the power, your power goes out. I'm talking about Grimble Grumble fucking with the audio that I just lost, and the audio flips in that moment. It's like they are doing stuff. And I do think that your adrenaline, then you go to your phone and the phone is on. That's the confirmation, right? That's the escalating part for you, is like, okay, did you catch that the door was me? And I think like either one of two things is happening. Like they close the door and open your phone right then. So it happens like, it, you know, in your mind, you're going from this door being closed scares me, I'm going right to my phone. Or he's waiting for you to get the freaked out feeling, and then he's quickly going behind your back and opening your phone because he knows you're going there next. Like he's watching you walk over there.
Yeah, he's like, he's gonna mess with me, but then he's gonna do something to make sure I know he's messing with me.
Bingo. And so this might sound totally out there, but I'm starting to build like what I feel is a little bit of a playbook on how they do things and how it works. And in my opinion, what that is an invitation for you to do, like you said really well, it might be my mission here to believe without seeing, to take your words from you and give them back to you. And so if you can get to the full belief, maybe with a little bit of my encouragement in your own abilities here, as well as what I think you already know, which is that this is who you are, and stepping into it, you know, let me say something here, Hannah, and I hope this is not received incorrectly, but this is what I always think when I talk to you. Like me, and I really mean this, just like me, I've been in like relationships with people in my life, take that for however you want to put it, that don't understand this side of me at all. And I often find myself, when I'm trying to talk about these experiences, in the same breath, doing the thing that you do, which is like, yeah, but there's also a logical explanation. And you're kind of like a self-deprecating, as you're also talking about these real feelings, experiences, you know, goosebumps sustained for 40 minutes until you're on the highway is, in my mind, he's sitting there with you and is next to you the entire time from the moment you get that initial feeling at the door. And that's like something that like I would say is close to like what happened in the kitchen, because like you can feel when they're there and you can feel when they leave. It's clear. It's like a sustained weird goosebump. It's a lightheaded, giddy feeling. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is like, part of all of our lessons, and this is not just me giving this feedback to you, but everybody listening, is letting go of that need to appear rational, because it is absolutely rational enough that these things happened, because these are real phenomena. And I just think that like, as we're getting back into the flow here and your imagination is getting sparked again, it's only natural that that is going to bring about an escalation in the attempts to communicate with you, because you're opening the door by opening up your mind and heart, and then it makes it easier for them to come through. And to what extent there's a co-creation of reality, or that they'd use our curiosity and fascination and wonder as a power cell to perform magic, whatever you want to term it as. It's an interface. It's absolutely clear to me. You have to go purely into the imaginal space of it all without reservation. And then I think that's when you see them. And I mean, to kind of wrap it up in a bow, like for me, what really happened, I think, is when I painted that boat, I did it in this really altruistic high watermark moment in my life. And when those whales showed up, when it launched it with Blake, that was so like mind-boggling to me. And I think that initial event with the whales started my brain on down a path that day with Mrs. X aboard the boat culminated in the art, the expression of my love for the world in everything I was doing, and my growing fascination with the synchronicities that were flowing around that boat and that event. And that's how the Fae got through that day. It's like the fuel cell of our unreserved wonder about life is truly the doorway through which the veil is breached. And you have that in you really, really strongly. And the more you become confident in your relationships that you're not going to be not understood or otherwise feel marginalized in relationships context because of what you're capable of doing, is a long, long process. One that I'm still struggling and wading my way through. But I just feel like I want to say to you, like, you got it. You've got the touch. Don't let it go to your head, but at the very least, let it shake off some of that snow on your roof, some of this stuff that's weighing you down about self-doubt. I'm truly convinced, not the least of which is because I've had a feeling about you all along, that's most likely your Barnaby coming through and sitting beside you and really like showing himself. I'm pretty sure it's he. I feel that.
I actually tried to draw him once. When I painted him, mind you, I didn't get to see his face either. But he kind of has like I would say somewhere between like 12 and 18 inches, maybe. Like I would say like what I imagine is like pixie or brownie height. I don't know if you've ever seen the Spiderwick Chronicles, but I mean they can change shape, I suppose, but like when I saw him in my dream, I was laying on my bed, which is probably like 12 to 16 inches off the ground, and he was eye level with me standing up. Like he had just walked over to me and started chatting. And I don't remember what we talked about, but I was like, I was half awake and I was just like, like, yeah. And I was responding to him, but I was like, why are you here right now? I'm trying to sleep. Like, not like rude, but I was just like, like I'm trying to absorb this information while I can, but like, okay. And then I fell asleep. And as I fell asleep, I was waking up in real life and I was like, wait, I didn't ask his name. And then his name just kind of like echoed. So.
Well, Hannah, as I often say, I could talk with you forever, and I do mean that, but I like to keep the episodes for around 2.5 hours out of respect for the audience's time and for your time most of all. What will happen is inevitably we'll have you back on for a second conversation, because I know you've found some objects and we could have easily another hour conversation about what flowed there. If it's cool with you, let's just kind of leave a teaser there for the audience, park that particular piece of the storytelling here tonight, because I think it's worth its own separate exploration, even if it's just like a 40-minute bonus episode on what went down there. Okay. Is that cool with you? Would you be down with doing it that way tonight?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Because I don't want to distract from Barnaby this time with any additional storytelling. It's also a judgment call I'm making based on the way things flowed out. Many people listening have a Fae who's around. Figure out how you can get to know who that is. Hannah's given a pretty compelling roadmap here today, punctuated and anchored by the obvious character that you possess. And so try to be more like Hannah. I said once, we should all be a little bit more like Lynn, from Liminal Lynn. the two of you are cut from the same cloth. Your heart is on your sleeve, and there's a real genuineness to you that is so Fae. It's just as Fae as it comes. I'm not saying the Fae are childlike, and I think Katie put it really well, actually. She said there's a difference between childish and childlike, and you're not childish in any way, but you have this beautiful childlikeness to you, this pure way of being willing to accept the world into your eyes and heart. Lynn's the same. There's a lot of people who've come on the show that are like that. And these are the people who are often contacted. And yeah. I'll leave it this other thing too, is like this guy I talked to recently named Clyde said something so interesting just quickly, but it stuck with me. He's like, yeah, the Fae, they're just so backwards. They're making contact and changing the world from the bottom up. That's why they choose all the weird people and that are traumatized. And I said, oh. And he said, also, that's how they know that they can trust you, because they know you're tough and that you got a good heart. So they pick the fighters.
Faith, trust, and pixie dust.
Huh. That's a really great transition point. So, as you know, I ask every person who comes on the show this one question. No wrong answer, no right answer. What do you think fairies are, Hannah?
Well, answer hasn't really changed since our first taking of this, but I basically think they are what we are. The only difference is they are not permanently planted on Earth in a physical body. Like my perception of any living thing in this current reality is we are, regardless of your religion or spiritual beliefs, source energy, experiencing itself as a 28-year-old living in her first own apartment, or a ladybug sitting on someone's knee at the beach, or a middle-aged white guy having a fairy podcast. Like, I think their energy experiencing itself as the same thing, except they have interdimensional and interterrestrial capabilities that I think we also have, just in a more physical way. So I don't think they're that far removed from us. I think they're just not so stuck, as you put it, in all this stuckness. Yeah. So
I literally hope that like when you die, they just like, okay, welcome to the waiting room of subsequent choices. Would you like to come back as a human, or you've done well enough, you can come back as a fairy? And I'm gonna be like, fairy, very, 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 load me into the fairy avatar version of this game, please. I want to bend reality. I want to laugh at the humans as they scratch their head wondering what the fuck closed a door and opened a phone. It's also interesting too that they closed one thing and opened another. Don't you love that little bit of what happened with you there too? Interesting.
yeah,
Hey?
very as above, so below.
Hey, so it's tailored. It's always tailored to the recipient. They are very, very good orchestral planners. They know like how to weave the whole orchestra, and by orchestra I just mean reality, down to your own ability to interpret. They know that about you too. They know how you're gonna think about it. They're just so clever. And yeah, you have the hallmark of real fake contact going on in your world there, in my opinion. And I love your answer about what fairies are, especially the part about them being somehow like us. I have said that so many times without really knowing what I'm trying to say, but it just keeps leaving my mouth. They're like us. But yeah, I don't know it either, but I feel it is kind of like somehow we could get there as a species, as a race.
Oh, for sure. Like, I was talking to you about the root chakra and what Chandran was talking about, and I feel like
if you're looking at a human body and you're looking at if in case people don't know, you have 7 energy centers and they're called chakras, and they're lined from the base of your spine to the tip of your spine, and then right above your spine, which is your crown chakra, which is like ultimate spiritual enlightenment. We are all one type deal. And my kind of concept is that we're basically stuck in our root chakra, which is the very first one, where it's based on survival and primitive, like just basic primal instincts of needing to survive and, whatever. And I feel like the Fae are at the top, and we just kind of have to, like, as a whole, as a collective, move that higher to be able to eventually see past the veil. And, yeah.
Well, hence the work of the show, which is entirely foundationally structured on the willingness and bravery of guests like yourself to come and say exactly all of these things that you've said tonight. The more voices that come into chorus, the harder the overall message is to miss, and the more easily the veil slides away in the mind of the collective. It may actually boil down to something just as simple as that. There's enough people just saying what they saw, and it could be enough to take down the veil. So I hope. Hannah, without, getting drawn back into another 45 minutes of waxing poetic with you, which I could, again, talk to you forever. And again, thanks for talking with me a second time. Not an easy thing. You did a great job here tonight. Can I do my housekeeping and wind this one down? That'd be cool with you?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, well, you've been listening tonight to Fascinating Fae. I'm your host, Jim. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, you can send me an email at encounters@fascinatingfae.com. That's a good way to send me like a longer bit of information. Or you can hit me up on any traditional socials where you can find the show at Fascinating Fae. While you're at it, don't forget to do all those things that podcasters love so much. You know what they are. I don't have to remind you. Hannah, I don't have any more value that I could add, mostly because the time won't let me. But I'll say this. On behalf of all of our human and non-human listeners tuning into Fascinating Fae tonight, a super big thanks to Hannah from Tennessee for coming on the show. Hannah, thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I guess all I really have to say is there's a direct correlation from your mental health to your physical health. So if you're having a bad day, take a walk, breathe fresh air, take a shower. And your perception of reality is based solely on the thoughts that you choose to focus on. So remember, everything is a choice, including what you think. And your brain can lie to you sometimes, but it can also tell you a lot of truth. So that's all.
Well, I've been dreaming of a land, a world at one with what is what, where I can understand. And you would lead me by the hand, take me to a garden found where flowers bloom all year round. And I do believe it's there. Yeah, I do believe it's there. The angels singing by the shore, people play right through the day, just like we did before. And they have never gone to war, never stood on a battlefield or held a heavy sword or shield. And I do believe it's there. Yeah, I do believe it's there. If we believe, then we can soar to the land where people stand with 2 feet on the floor. Well, they have never gone to war, never stood on a battlefield or held a heavy sword or shield. And I do believe it's there. Yeah, I do believe it's there. And I do believe it's there. Yeah, I do believe it's there.